First of all, we're learning that in Chichester we have yet another one of these all too familiar systems where the local community are up in arms, furious that suddenly their local hotel in the middle of Chichester has been turned into a asylum seeker centre without any consultation. Now, as you well know, Henry, this is a situation that's happening all over the country. We've seen protests in Wales, up in Skegness, all over the country where local communities are saying, OK, you've got to put these migrants somewhere, I suppose, but you just shoved them straight in the middle of our community without even asking us. Yep. And now we learn that local councils have all written to Sunak to say, enough, stop this. We're full. We cannot take this anymore. We're building up to some kind of crunch point in this saga, aren't we?
I think we are, Kevin. Yeah, undoubtedly, and I apologise if the link is a little bit poor here. But yeah, we are, and I simply don't see people's patience lasting much longer. Tensions are rising down in Portland, where the local community has got serious concerns about the barge down there, which is their right. They should be able to express themselves. But on the other hand, you've got people being bussed in from around the country to protest down there saying refugees welcome. And they are intimidating and threatening the local community. These tensions are building, both in terms of polarising people within the UK, but also in terms of actual tension between the refugees and local communities because of the bitterness caused by the failure of Home Office planning and consultation. To be fair to the Home Office, though, they've got a serious problem, haven't they? A logistical problem. Where do they put all these people? Well, they've started with a strategy of putting people in hotels, hoping that the problem will eventually go away. Of course, that's not sustainable. So they must, and they have so far failed, come up with a more sustainable, long-term solution for this. Yes, stop the boats, but we've got to deal with the people who do arrive here. And to my mind, Kevin, as I've always said, the longer the government has delayed a proper solution to this, the more drastic that solution is going to have to be. And I now am at the point where I absolutely believe that the only way of dealing with this is to build purpose-built refugee camps on places like Salisbury Plain or whatever, like the United Nations High Commission for Refugees do in various parts of the world. We should be doing that, provide the healthcare, the welfare, and the policing, crucially, of those camps until these people are processed. Now, that's a resourcing thing. There is simply not the political knowledge, will or courage to engage with this problem properly and to provide the resources it needs or to redirect them as is needed. It's a failure of leadership and government.
I would agree with you. Now, Suella Braverman, meanwhile, the Home Secretary, is over in America. Lecturing the Americans on what they should do about their own migrant crisis. They have a terrible crisis down there in the south, on their south border with Mexico. I'm not sure that they'll be all ears for the advice from Suella Braverman, given her track record. But she's saying, Henry, that countries, governments that fail to tackle illegal migration, e.g. America and Britain, and I quote, risk losing their democratic legitimacy. Well, I would suggest that given that the majority of people in this country voted for a sovereign country with sovereign borders, the migrant crisis has revealed that democratic decision wasn't really honoured and still has not been honoured.
Kevin, I totally agree with you. You know, we're of one mind on this, and I'm sure the majority of people watching will agree. The Brexit thing, everything that's happened since, even the Prime Minister's own promises, all take us in the direction of properly securing and managing our borders and immigration. The government has singularly failed to do that. It has been firefighting since 2014 on this issue. It has not come up with a coherent strategy whatsoever. That is a massive, massive failing. And I'm sure that out there is a significant, probably the majority of the population, are actually thinking, what on earth is the point of democracy when we have elected people on a platform of doing this and they simply don't exercise the leadership or the courage or the will to do what is needed? Now, that's going to have a breaking point at some point, Kevin. I don't know where it's going to be or when it's going to be. But I have to say, Suella Braverman is right about one thing on this. Governments have failed. I think the UK could take a stronger lead if it had the knowledge and the courage to do so, but it doesn't want to do it alone. But the other thing is she's also saying that the international system for migration management is flawed and needs to be reviewed and updated. She's entirely right. The United Nations Refugee Convention, which a lot of international law is based upon, including the ECHR judgments on some of these things as well, actually was written 72 years ago, shortly after, 7 years after World War II. We're in a very different world now in terms of international, the ability to travel internationally, international communications, the internet, which have not only facilitated migration, but they've facilitated the organised crime involved in encouraging and furthering that migration. So we must, as the international community, address that. What governments must not do is pay any more attention to the people who want to open our borders and actually will destroy the rules-based system on which the Western civilization has grown up. It was based on a set of values and principles and the rule of law. If you open borders, then at the moment, quite simply, you're going to dismantle that entire system.
I think what she's talking about there, Henry, I think what she's saying, she said to America, to the rest of Europe, Britain, this is Suella Braverman, we must come together and ask whether the international conventions and legal frameworks designed 50-plus years ago are fit for purpose in an age of jet travel and smartphones. I think what she's trying to say, that's a long-winded, elliptical way of saying Britain should leave the European Court of Human Rights, the European Convention on Human Rights. If that's what she means, she's quite right. We're never going to be able to do anything about this migrant crisis unless we can make our own decisions about it, and we can't make our own decisions if we're still in the European Convention on Human Rights. Am I right?
I think essentially that is the way that the government sees it. I think also that, I actually personally believe, Kevin, that there was an opportunity, perhaps is a very small opportunity, for the British government to again exercise real statesman-like leadership on this and say to the signatories of the European Convention on Human Rights, look, we've all got problems with it, we really must open it up and review it. Let's do that, otherwise we're going to pull out.